Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Come on in, sit on down, join me for another live Q&A where I get to talk with you guys about whatever's on my mind and you can share with me whatever's on yours. I'm open to any questions, any queries, and any topics you want discussing during this time, but I do have a few things today that I would actually like to discuss myself. It's been one of those strange days where things just seem to come together and odd odd occurrences kept happening within my line of sight that have somehow led me to make this video now where I'm going to talk about a few things which were just odd today, very odd. So, if I could tell a story, and lay down how this kind of went down for me. I spent the first half of the morning with my wife, running some important errands for a big life change that's coming up recently. And then after a few meetings, we thought, well, we have the rest of the afternoon, we don't have to pick up our son yet for another couple of hours. Let's go and enjoy the sun, and let's go and sit in a restaurant for a little bit, and maybe we can just do a bit of work on our laptops, have some bite to eat, have a drink of something, a soft drink of a sort, and just chill out for a couple of hours. So we did that. We sat down in the bar area of the restaurant because we weren't really intending on, getting a big meal or anything like that. And the plug socket for our laptops was conveniently placed in that area. And it has a TV on the wall. So while I'm busy, editing my book and going through and proofreading chapter by chapter, line by line, and my wife's there obviously doing her own thing on her laptop as well, she starts showing me something. And while she's speaking, my eye got caught to the TV that was just behind her head. And I saw a horse drenched in blood just running down the streets of London on the news. I thought, well, that's odd. Yeah, that doesn't look right. That's weird, And then next thing I know, it suddenly switches to another scene, where another story, should I say, where it's like, TikTok has been banned, or US Senate passes bill to ban TikTok. And my wife's talking to me, and I just look at the TV, and I look at her, and I look back at the TV and like nod and indicate and look at the telly, look what's going on. She turns around, she's like, they've not passed it, have they? So this is something clearly she knew something about that I didn't have not had my finger on the pulse of this at all. But yeah, apparently TikTok has officially been kind of banned in America. They've been given a year, I believe, to sell the company in some way so it doesn't have any affiliations with China. Is that what's going on? And if they don't, then it's no longer welcome in the country. You won't be able to download any updates or get the thing from the app stores anymore, and it will just become obsolete as it becomes less usable due to a lack of update capabilities or something like that, like a slow death of the platform in America. And it's just seemed odd. And, I was still reeling about seeing a white horse running through the streets of London covered in blood. I wanted to know what was going on there, but I was busy. So I just kind of got on with what I was doing and finished off the day, and then just did what we needed to do. But later in the evening, I opened up my laptop and Telegram's there. I have a Telegram group, if you don't know, with like over 1,000 people in it. And MK Ryan, one of my mods, had posted a news article about the white horse, and the horses that were let loose through London, covered in blood. And he said, I hope it's not connected to this. And it was of a story about Big Ben broke this morning. And it had taken 2 hours to fix it or something like that. And oddly enough, the clock had stopped at 9 a.m. and then let out 11 rings an hour later. Okay, when the clock was still broken and it was only like 10 o'clock or something like that. So that instantly piqued my attention because it was quite literally a symbol of 9 a.m., 11 rings, while a pale horse covered in blood is running through the streets of London. And I just couldn't help but think, like, and at the same time, what, some odd social media platform which is huge, has been shut down or banned or something. And I was like, what an odd collection of events just all coming together at once there. That was absolutely just stupid and nuts. So I looked into it and I got the articles and I started reading into it a bit more. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share with you some of the articles I have surrounding this event. And then I'll share with you some of my opinions on what I think might actually be going on here, symbolically speaking, you know. So let me just have a quick drink. Let me just share my screen with you. Oh, hang on, let me just get up the right thing first. I don't need ad blocker up there straight away, do I? Telling me to pay. And let's get up. We'll get up this article from the Telegraph, only because it's got some interesting quotes in here, which I think are really funny. And no, I'm not going to start my free trial of the Telegraph for free. I'm going to milk this page while it's loaded before it kicks me off. So let's see how we do here, okay? So screen, and you can see this is the article. So, 4 injured by blood-covered runaway horses in London. Now, immediately, we have horses and the number 4 brought up in this title. I believe what really happened was 5 horses went a bit wild and ran away, as we'll read on. But because they needed to insert the symbolic meaning of the 4 horsemen in there somewhere, they made out that 4 people were injured specifically, just to kind of keep it all symbolically in check. I feel like that's what happened there, because the number of horses, it's not the 5 horsemen of the apocalypse exactly, is it? So I think they had to kind of play that game a little bit there to make this work. But let's just read this article and see what it says. So I'll very quickly just smatter some of this. So there's some horses running down. They plow into this bus, bang bang, and absolutely just destroy the thing. And there's some images of the bus here, which is just smashed to pieces. Is that how they got damaged and started bleeding? I don't know. I think the white horse, which is seen just galloping past this guy here, was already doused in blood. Long before that incident, it was clearly injured or something. Something had happened to it, something brutal. And it doesn't really add up why it's covered in blood, because from what we read, it seems like this thing was only spooked by a bit of concrete falling on the ground and then kicked off its rider and ran away. So why is it covered in blood? I have no idea, but here's we're dealing with the injured scene here, and that's it really. That's all the footage you get. So it says here, runaway military horses charged through central London, injuring 4 people during rush hour on Wednesday morning. 5 horses from the household cavalry bolted after throwing off their riders during their morning exercise in Belgravia, when they were spooked by nearby builders moving rubble. The horses careered through the street, smashing into a double-decker tour bus and a Mercedes-Benz people carrier. Witnesses on Buckingham Palace Road recounted seeing a serviceman thrown from his horse and one of the loose animals crashing into a taxi waiting outside the Claremont Hotel and shattering its windows. Okay, so maybe glass damage is what cut this horse and made it bleed? I don't know. Footage captured by passerby showed a blood-stained grey horse galloping through the traffic around Tower Bridge and the Strand. Ambulance crews treated 4 people in 3 separate incidents in Buckingham Palace Road, Belgrave Square, and at the junction of Chancery Lane and Fleet Street in the space of just 10 minutes. All the horses have now been recovered. So, a roundup of events, what we know so far. 5 horses bolted after throwing the riders off because they were scared by rubble. Some horses collided with traffic. 2 of them suffered injuries. Ambulance crew treated 4 people in 3 separate incidents for this, and all 5 horses were captured, two of which in Limehouse, 5 miles away from where the incident began. 3 soldiers were assessed in hospital for the injuries, which were not thought to be serious. White horse drenched in blood, says witness. A management consultant from London who saw 2 military horses bolt through the capital says it was gruesome, like a weird dream. Blah, 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 from South London, was on the 172 bus Aldwych when she saw 2 horses gallop past her and said members of the public looked shocked at the incident. 2 horses went flying past, 1 black, 1 white. The white one was drenched in blood from the chest down, and they were galloping through the traffic at speed. Blah blah blah. Okay. What else have we got here? There's some interesting, funny comments that were made along the way, which I can find if I can find them. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Here's here's one of the cars that was ploughed into. Just outside the hotel. Here's the white horse galloping towards some cyclists just covered in blood. They're like, what on earth is going on here? What else have we got? That's the black horse was tamed. There's the damage to the bus, got absolutely decimated, as you can see there. No coming back from that. It's like we've got a bit of it rips the metal apart on the side from the looks of it. So yeah, horsepower's no mess, is it? Clearly, look at this thing. Nothing to turn your nose up at. Brutal though, and obviously shame for the horses. Look at this thing. It looks like it was really suffering. It must have been suffering if it was bleeding this much. But isn't this just such a dramatic scene? A white horse drenched in blood galloping through the city of London, you know, and here's all a map of the events as it happened. Here's another quick video of them running at speed past a taxi. Another one there. Someone sorting out the black horse. And I'm trying to find, because people were making comments about how they thought as the apocalypse started somewhere around here. Maybe it's not documented in this one. Maybe I've got the wrong one. I don't know. Yeah, this is just the events as it happened. Was it this? No. Right, so if I can find the quote somewhere, maybe it was this one. Let's try this one. So another one here from NBC News. Pandemonium was suing the clock. So this is quite funny. So it says here, the City of London Police said in a statement that it was pleased to confirm all the horses have been accounted for. We're continuing to liaise with the army. While this pandemonium was ensuing, the clock in the Elizabeth Tower, more commonly known as Big Ben, the city's most recognisable landmark and usually an icon of stability, stopped without explanation at 9 a.m. This only users on social media reflected that the dramatic scenes resembles a portent of some apocalyptic event, though it was unclear whether the horses being caught would ward off such a scenario. So there you go, they try to link it to scenes of the apocalypse, you know. It looked like it was injured quite badly. But yeah, maybe these articles have been edited since I read them or something. I don't know. Maybe I've just lost the original one I read. But people were like saying like it looks like the apocalypse has started. Or someone said, "Why would the apocalypse happen on a Wednesday?" It was the main response. Like, oh great, here it is. Look, the surreal image of saddled horses bolting through the largest cities in the world prompted Brits on social media to joke, perhaps nervously, that this may be a portent for some terrible looming event. The hashtag apocalypse briefly trended on X in the famously sardonic United Kingdom. Yeah, so there you go. I just thought that was funny. People were immediately thinking, "Oh, this is what is going on. Is this it? Is this the end of the world on a Wednesday morning, like in the middle of the week?" The 4 horses that were mounted threw off the riders, and another unmanned horse joined the posse. Just getting the 4 horses in there. They couldn't have just said 5 horses escaped. But yeah. So symbolically speaking, this is pretty odd. I mean, if you're a Christian, you know, we understand about the 4 horses of tribulation, of the apocalypse, you know, that are released as the veils are poured out onto is it vials? Is the vials? Yeah, sorry, I think I always say, yeah, the vials are poured out onto mankind, you know, and you've got war and pestilence and death, you know, all these horrible things happening. And then we got the quotes here. What have we got? We've got and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed with him. The power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. You know, so quite a dramatic scene to see a white horse, a pale horse, should we say, running through the streets. And I only say pale horse because even in the article, even though the horse is clearly white, they described it as grey, covered in blood. It's a grey horse. So it's like they were trying to angle away from saying white horse, because it's possible that the one that rides the white horse, symbolically speaking, could be Jesus with the crown and bow. Okay. But the one that rides the pale horse is death incarnate. You know, it's the opposite. So it feels like they really went out of the way to make sure people referred to the white horse as a pale horse, perhaps trying to make a reference to Revelation 6 here, you know, and then talking about the one that would bring death and destruction soon. So I just thought that was funny. Let's just go into the Wikipedia on the four horses. We'll get some more figures coming here from the vision from John of Patmos. So pestilence on the white horse is depicted. Yeah, so symbolically speaking, a bloody horse is definitely a biblical reference. I mean, you can't really get around this. But what makes this just even more odd is that thing that was mentioned at the end of the article. You know, that it's the Big Ben had stopped working on the same morning. So it says here, you know, Big Ben's hands freeze at 9 a.m. for more than an hour before the famous clock sounds the wrong number of bongs in a major malfunction 2 years after it was refurbished. Big Ben's clock stopped for more than an hour today, leaving Westminster's sleuths baffled. The timepiece in the structure was frozen at 9 a.m. until gone 10 a.m. before its hands were seen move forward to display the correct time. The House of Commons spokesman admitted that the dials on what is formerly known as the Great Clock of Westminster, were temporarily displaying the incorrect time before the issue was rectified. Then it says, you know, they malfunctioned by performing 11 chimes at 10:06. So you got stuck at 9, as you see in this image, and then chimed 11 times. And if you don't know this already, if this is not something you're aware of, maybe you're quite new to your conspiracy research, the number 9 and the number 11 together is quite a big deal, in symbolically speaking. And this is where you have to get visual. It's not simply just about the numbers of number 9 and number 11 and what they specifically represent. It's more about what they look like as a symbol in Roman numerals. Okay, so if you don't know, it looks like this. It is IXXI, or IX 9, XI 11. And when together, you get this symbol right here. So at first glance, what do you see? I mean, probably not much. Initially speaking, it doesn't look like much, does it? Just a bunch of lines all together, you know. But this has extreme significant importance to the Freemasons, because you see, the Freemasons often show this as their symbol. Okay, are you seeing any similarities here to what's on the screen? So you got this, and then you got this. Are you seeing it? The two pillars on either side, and then the square and compass in the middle. There it is. So, it's quite literally a reference to the grand architect of the universe coming through a portal between two pillars thanks to the invocation rituals of Freemasonic lodges. So this is a Freemasonic symbol representing a portal which brings forth the all-seeing eye of providence, as they call it, which is actually just the eye of the grand architect of the universe, as they describe it, which is a impersonal force beyond our realm, okay, the true God of all things, and they are not talking about the God of the Bible. They refer to that as the light bringer Lucifer. So that's what this represents, okay? So when you see 9/11 encoded into things, you know who's really behind these events. And to have this white horse covered in blood running through the streets at the same time as this event happening is a pretty ominous omen, okay? However, I am a conspiracy theorist first and foremost. As you can tell, I don't hide this. This is who I am. It's pretty clear. There is another reference to the horse, first of all, in Revelation. I think it's 14:17, is it? Yeah, 14:17. Talking about another angel came from the temple of heaven, and he had a sharp sickle. Still another angel who had charge of fire came from the altar and called in a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, "Take your sharp sickle, gather the clusters of grapes from the earth's vine, because the grapes are ripe. The harvest begins." The angel swung his sickle on the earth, gathered its grapes, and threw them into the great winepress of God's wrath. They were trampled in the winepress outside the city, and blood flowed out of the winepress, rising as high as the horse's bridles for a distance of 1,600 stadia. So there you go. Horses' bridles drenched in blood as the wrath of God is poured out, or the winepress of God's wrath is given to those who are harvested. This is the separation of the wheat from the tares situation. All the evil ones are about to suffer. So could this symbolically be a message from the Freemasons, who are the evil ones being mentioned here, who are going to have to suffer God's wrath? Are they? Is it saying, "Oh, guys, our time's up. The white horse is here, with blood up to its bridles. We're about to be absolutely destroyed. It's over. Game over. And get in your bunkers that we built. It's time." Is that what that is? Is that what the message is? That seems a bit maybe. Maybe it could seem like that on the surface. You could take that as a one interpretation of events that are currently going down. That's for sure. But I wonder, because there's a new perspective you can add to all of this, which you guys know I've been talking about, is this tribulation has already happened. The apocalypse has already come and gone. The vials have already been poured out, and the four horsemen have already dished out their justly punishments. It's all done, and Christ has already reigned for 1,000 years. Could it be, perhaps, once again, this is their Freemasonic, because they are the orchestras, the script writers, and their fingerprint is left there by the 9/11 symbolism. Could it be that they're playing us again, and they're trying to rile up the Christians to think and see tribulation, pre-rapture, pre-Christ is about to return symbolism everywhere? Are they purposefully orchestrating events to make it seem like, if you are a Christian, revelation must be occurring because the signs and symbols are right there in our face? Are they making signs and symbols look like they're happening? Is this just another example of that? Perhaps. Because this is not the case, If we are in the little season after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, and all Satan's trying to do is gather an army to go make war with the camp of saints during this time period, and that's where we are. All of this is just convoluted nonsense. Okay, all of this is just made up Hollywood stories. The camera's pointing at the horse on purpose. They are the playwrights. They are the script writers, and we're playing on their stage. Okay, they wrote the script to send the white horse out there, bloody through the streets of London, for Big Ben to break down conveniently at 9 o'clock and strike by 11 chimes. They did all that. They planned all of that symbolically because they knew many pre-trib or post-trib, simply just tribulation-style Christians who are waiting for Christ to return are looking for the revelation signs of that period. They're looking for the signs of tribulation. They're looking for the mark of the beast stuff, So they make it look like stuff like that's happening all the time. They keep doing it. Like a cycle, like an endless cycle. They're constantly trying to make it look like it's happening. That's kind of the game. And when I see the fingerprints of these people in these events, like the IXXI thing, I am so skeptical now. I am so skeptical. And yes, I know that the pillars of Freemason do represent Yakin and Boaz there, Gary. The sun and the moon, they are the pillars that had the knowledge of the mystery wisdoms from the antediluvian age, in which Enoch and their son Lamech and his son Lamech put into hieroglyphs on the pillars, which were recovered after the flood, likely by Nimrod, and even possibly placed in front of the Temple of Solomon when it was built too, which harbour all the wisdoms and knowledge of the seven sacred sciences. Symbolically speaking, I know what those pillars do represent. I'm not, I'm not saying that I don't, but I'm saying symbolically speaking, 9/11 represents IXXI, which looks like the two pillars of the Freemasonic temple, because they love Solomon, they idolize Solomon. They think he's the bee's knees, especially because of all his occult wisdom. But the two pillars of Yakin and Boaz, and then the square and compass in the middle to represent their god, the grand architect of the universe, is extremely ominous, and it's symbolically represented in the numbers of 9 and 11 because of the way the Roman the Roman numerals look when they're together. There we go, got it out in the end. So no, I'm not so wrong about the pillars as you just said there. I know all this, but come on, you got to keep it simple. These guys are keeping it simple too. So yeah, all that together, very odd. And then TikTok, being banned, like as if they're doing something about all of our data being sold to China or something, or China spying on us or something like that, and data mining the US citizens in order to not only destabilize our country through the unwholesome nature of TikTok and the terrible attitudes it instills in people. These are, by the way, these are all the red pilled mainstream views that people have against TikTok. I'm not saying any of this is necessarily the real reason they got rid of it. Because the truth is, TikTok's been around for a decade when it was Musically or something like that. It's been doing this for a long time, so why all of a sudden now is it a problem? And it isn't really. I think this is just another attempt of the governments, maybe the US one right now, maybe more will follow suit, trying to give the illusion that they actually care about the people's privacy and safety by doing stunts like this. Okay, but the truth is, every bit of technology you own, such as a smartphone or a smart TV or a laptop or whatever it is, any technology you've allowed in your home, be it smart meters or anything of that with the term smart in front of it, not just simply all the other apps you also have on those devices that you've already given over all your details and information to. You've already ticked agreed on so many boxes that you can't even keep track. It would be impossible to understand. Your data and information and privacy went out the window well over a decade ago. Okay, you can't then just ban one single app and think that's going to change anything. And they're not stupid enough to actually believe that that's what they're doing. They're just trying to keep up the illusion that they actually, care about you. That's all it is. Is it just theatre again? And besides, another app will just turn up just like TikTok to replace it, or another platform will just gain out of this. Or maybe this is all just to shift more people onto a particular platform instead of TikTok because they want to keep it more centralized. Who knows what the real end-term agenda is, but it's not to protect you, and it's not because they care about China stealing your data either. It's nothing to do with that. It's a dog and pony show, It's a bit of fun. It's just their way of keeping up the illusion that reality is just basic bumbling, foolish, mundane politicians making silly decisions because they don't understand the kids. But these people are sinister and deceptive on so many levels, and they're putting on a show for you. We have to remember all of that. And for all of this to happen on the same day, I mean, yeah, this is definitely an esoteric message for the initiated into these mystery wisdom cults. Okay, the people of these secret societies likely saw all these symbols and interpreted something from it that we just can't fully understand. This was all an encoded message through symbolism, absolutely. And I think I've gleaned as much as I possibly can from what I understand into what these symbols represent. But I bet there's so much more. I bet there is so much more to this that I just cannot get the grips on because I'm I don't know everything they know. I'm not I haven't gone through the degrees of mystery wisdoms, but I have certainly gleaned enough to know that yeah, all the signs are there to say they're doing something here. But I think I do lean more towards it's the false narrative they're trying to create. They're trying to make it seem like revelation is about to come and pass again, just like they've been doing for decades. There's always a new event which is a sign from the early stages of tribulation. But if the truth is we are way past that, then this is all just trivial. This is stupid. This is all just there to keep us focused on the wrong thing. It's like a magician's trick. And someone just said there, a bloody horse sounds like the sign of the red horse coming soon. And that's interesting because that means the next horse would be war, right? So it could be a sign that the war's about to kick off. It could be that too. Or could it be a sign that the next major event's about to go down, just like what happened, over 20 something years ago? Using those numbers that I just gave you earlier? Could this be another one? Is it time? Is it cycle time? Has it been 12 years already? Every 12 years, something tends to happen, right? Obviously, we can't forget the eclipse just went down. So yeah, oh, and now white horses are running through streets. There'll be signs in the heavens and all this. Ooh, tribulation must be about to happen, right, guys? Yeah, I do. Yeah, come on. I think we're being played here. If the media is showing you, they want you to see these things. They're not trying to hide anything. They're not like there's a game at play. They're trying to make it look like something is happening. Do you think if signs of Christ's return were truly going down, they would allow their mainstream media to show you that? Do you think they would be pointing their cameras at it, or do you think they would simply just ignore, give no credence to, and belittle anybody who claims any sign is of such a thing? Okay, that's probably what would actually happen when you actually think about it, you know, and it just all seems in the past, when I was first a conspiracy theorist, when I first woke up years ago, like over a decade, like 2010-11 period, and started to see things for the first time and question the narrative, and go through and start learning all the truths and the hidden secrets and the symbols and the signs and the agendas and all these type of things. When I first started, I probably would have looked at these events and thought they were ominous omens of something biblical about to go down or something like that. I probably would have been there thinking that, and I would have tried to convince myself like, oh, well, they're breaking down spiritual hedges. They must have to show us what's going to happen before it happens, so we spiritually give consent for them to do it because we do nothing to stop them. I would have gone down all that really complicated, overcomplicated, convoluted mental gymnastic justification in my mind to try and understand why they're showing us these things. When the reality is, if we were in the pre-tribulation period of time, and the evil Satan and his minions in the human world controlled all the media, which by the way they do now. But I'm saying if we change our time zone and that's what's happening and it's pre-trib time, they wouldn't be showing us any signs. They would be keeping it as hidden as possible. They wouldn't be playing some weird karmic game to try and make us tacitly, agree to the torment that's coming or something like that. They wouldn't play any. They're not stupid. Why would they do that? They would keep us as ignorant and in the dark as possible, and they would make sure we have no idea anything was about to happen at any moment, and they'd be convincing us all the time with the media that everything's hunky dory and you can just get on with your day and everything's fine. That's what they would be doing. But that's not what they're doing. All media is geared towards constantly keeping us in a state of perpetual fear and doomsdayness. They're constantly trying to make us convinced the world is just about to end, Jesus is just about to return, people are just about to be raptured, and death and destruction is about to come upon us all, God's just about to pour out his wrath. Why would the devil want us to know that that was about to happen if that was the time period we were in? He would not. Okay, so if he is blatantly controlling everything and is blatantly trying to make us think all these things, then something's up. There's a lie somewhere. There's a hidden agenda. And if you consider that maybe we're in the little season after tribulation and the 1,000-year reign of Christ, then yes, he would want you to think we are in the time where tribulation is about to unfold. And he would like to perpetually keep us in that time frame, to make people lose faith when things don't go down how they should have. That's not what the Bible said would happen, to make people completely drop religion and everything when completely out of left field, aliens turn up claiming to be from Zeta Reticuli, here to, help us ascend to the fifth dimension and join the Galactic Federation. And then everyone will be in their Bibles thinking, well, the book doesn't say this is going to happen. What's this? Has it all been a lie? But if you put it into the little season time frame, everything clicks. Aliens can be explained, enormous mothership UFOs can be explained as the camp of saints, a New Jerusalem, the beloved city that descended from heaven, so a floating city. Cities that descend from heaven tend to be able to fly, I assume, okay? So there's your aliens that are invading. Everything clicks into place in a shockingly scary way. All these convoluted, stupid, every little thing they throw at us now in the media suddenly makes sense from this angle and in this sign and this ability. And when aliens turn up, or what we've been made to believe our aliens have turned up, I'm sure the good aliens will suddenly manifest, here to save us from the bad aliens, and the good aliens are likely the fallen angel watchers that have, been controlling the little season with Satan during that time. Or the hybrid Nephilim creatures that have been brought back from behind the veil or something. And these good aliens, will make us all join together, teaching us awesome technologies and things to help us advance, to defend ourselves against the evil invading aliens who have come to destroy the earth. And Christ does come to destroy the earth in the end, because he wants to give us a new heaven and a new earth, because this one is utterly corrupted and infested with demons. In a very literal sense, the astral plane, which is just the other side of the coin of this world, it is the world, it's not separate from it, is just infested with the disembodied spirits of Nephilim. And they can't go anywhere or anything else, so they are going straight into the lake of fire to be burnt up with the earth, because they have utterly destroyed and corrupted this original creation that God made, and a new heaven and earth will be given to us. Okay? But the aliens, the good aliens, as so called, we have been told, are here to help protect us from the evil, nasty god, the evil alien who thinks he's a god, who's come to destroy our way of life in the earth. And that's how Satan gathers an army and makes everybody go to war with the camp of saints. He pretends to be the good aliens here to protect us from the bad aliens. It's that simple. And what I've just told you there is the plot of every single Hollywood movie on aliens that has ever existed since the century alien movies have existed. You think maybe they're trying to prep you for something? They're trying to get you prepared to go along with a certain narrative, perhaps? Nothing gets on that screen without a purpose. It's all there for a reason. If they are pointing a camera at something, it's because they want you to see it. It's that simple. Anyway, I'm going to end that rant there. I'm going to turn to the chat and let's see what you guys have to say about this. See if you can give me any of your own thoughts and opinions on the matter. Let me just scroll back up and see what's going on here. I think I saw briefly a super chat earlier, but it's gone now from my view. So let me just open up the other stream, see what's happening. And yeah, any questions, guys, any opinions, any thoughts on this matter, throw them at me and let's have a conversation about this. Right, so if I could just quickly check fan funding. That's Zetetics gave $10 and said, Paul, thanks for your hard work. God bless you. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, guys. That's amazing, Zetetic. Thank you. Wendy's here has gifted 5 memberships. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that too, Wendy. That's amazing. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, I do have a YouTube membership section. I think the cheapest option is $1.99 or something, $2, and the most expensive option is like $3.99 or something around that amount. That's if you just want to kick a few dollars my way every month. That's a good way of doing it. But for $5 a month, Patreon really is the best way to support me. For $5 a month, that's £4.50 a month, you get access to all the extra stuff, all the extra content. And that's for Patreon only, who paid the minimum threshold of $5 a month. But there's loads of stuff on there, guys, a huge backlog of talks, after-show talks with content creators, up-and-coming shows that aren't released yet, book snippets, all the extra behind-the-scenes stuff, if you're interested, is there as well. So go check that out if you haven't already. But back to the chat, guys. Let's see what's going on here. So I have missed so much that I'm going to just work backwards and see where it goes from there. Or I'm just going to look at the chat now and let it roll, and you tell me if there's anything you want me to know now, and I'll see if I can see it as it comes up. Butterfly Brain says, they are not creative, they envy our ability to create. That is true. Yeah, they seem to lack that basic common sense creativity that humans just naturally have. They seem to only be able to corrupt things that have already been created. It tends to be the general way of demons. Ephesians 6:12, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Spiritual wickedness in high places. Yes, that's right. Out of the body in the presence of the Lord, ever since Jesus, I think. Now I want a waffle, says Wendy. I must have missed something there. Did my rant inspire a craving for a waffle? Is that what I do? Is that how it works now? Okay, fair enough. If you're in the small season, pray for discernment and read scriptures. That's right, Jessica. Yeah. Look, I am fairly sold on that we are in the little season now. It does seem to make a hell of a lot of sense of a lot of things. But I'm always that 0.5% um, open to being proven wrong if something happens which is convincing enough to move me away from it. And it's more of a I'm not willing to be deceived when whatever the truth is does come to light, or whatever the lie that they're going to sell us is at play. This is why I fully invest myself in a lot of these theories and ideas. Um, and humor a lot of ideas as well, which I may not necessarily always believe as well. But I'm pretty sold on the Millennial Kingdom stuff. It really it After the decade of research I've been doing, this is the only topic that frames everything in a way that makes any sense. And it's scary how much sense it keeps making when you really start to actually think about it and analyze it in context to the reality we perceive. It just gets more and more evidential, and it's kind of unavoidable. And I implore anybody who hasn't considered it already to seriously consider it. Absolutely. Um, I once had a dream. Oh, that's gone. That just vanished away from me. Sorry, I was about to read a comment there. From Daniel Grunfest, who says, I once had a dream where Roman style governmental looking buildings descended out of the sky in a downward motion. The entire sky was full of them. Maybe you were watching New Jerusalem come from heaven to earth. Who knows? Because the thing is, I'm not even 100% certain on the actual um, mechanical workings of what a millennial reign of Christ would look like. People have said, "Oh, well, it was all spiritual. Christ was reigning from heaven." Perhaps he was, in a way, but in the center of the earth, just above the earth, in heaven, perhaps. In a literal sense, he was in the sky. Or maybe it was more ethereal and he was in another dimension. And that, it could still be possible. It could still be possible, and the physical kingdom manifested on earth because he was reigning in heaven. And the saints with perfected bodies who were resurrected through the first resurrection, the ones who were martyred for his name's sake, who ruled and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years, they could have been on earth with the humans, helping build all this glorious world and this city and this kingdom in a physical sense, while Christ was in heaven, coordinating everything and dictating how things should go. And it's possible the perfected saints were in full communication with Jesus, like through some sort of ethereal heavenly mechanism I don't understand, and they were relaying that back down to the earth and to the people there, and those people got to live during his reign and benefit and prosper from all of it. The living waters, the fountains, the many mansions, the abundance, the time, the luxury, all of it was there. Just a taste, a glimpse of the new heaven and earth to come. Not the real new heaven and earth, just a glimpse, a tiny taster of the ultimate thing at the end of it all. That's promised to us, that for those who are faithful. And that's how it could have gone down. And but it does say, I think it's Zechariah, is it? It's talking about how people do have to make pilgrimages. Those who fought against Christ in the initial tribulation, but were eventually subjugated and put under his rule, they had to make a pilgrimage every year to the beloved city to pay worship and homage to Christ and take part in the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. And if they didn't, they would get droughts. It wouldn't rain. So that implies that there was a physical place you could actually go and commune with and talk with the King Jesus ruling on earth for a millennia. So maybe there was a physical place. Maybe it was a heavenly thing. Maybe it was literally you go to a place and you get beamed up into a giant city in the sky like a flying saucer. From our perspective, it might look like a flying saucer of some kind, like a giant square in the sky or something. I don't know. But again, so I can't say the specific mechanics of how that would all go down. But what I'm saying is there's plenty of evidence in scripture alone to say that Jesus was saying he was immediately coming back to establish his kingdom, not in 2,000 years' time. And there's enough surrounding evidence outside of scripture from the world we can witness with our own eyes that proves that there's plenty of melted, burnt buildings from the wrath of God, and a huge destructive apocalyptic event had occurred, similar to tribulations, and all the cities in the Bible mentioned that would be destroyed have already been destroyed. It's done. It's over. And there's a lot of evidence as well to say a lot of tampering has been done to our history to hide this. The biggest red flag is the 1,000-year dark ages where nothing of significance really happened. So nothing was really documented apparently, due to the rulership of Christianity during that time, making everything so terrible for everybody. Ooh, it's kind of what? What? And there's no real major wars during that time, so nothing was really documented. Oh, so you're saying it was a time of peace? Just little skirmishes between barons fighting over petty land squabbles, but no major wars, you say? That sounds like a pretty peaceful time for most of humanity then. But every movie about the medieval period or the Dark Ages is just drudgery, dark, grey, miserable, people just self-torturing themselves and flagellating themselves because they have such a strong faith in Christ, and they're such sinful, horrible people that they just have to kill anybody who doesn't believe what they believe and murder all the pagans while whipping themselves on their backs because they're just such awful sinners themselves. And it just always depicts like anybody living during the medieval period as just living in absolute squalor and mud and filth and it's just disgusting. There's plagues everywhere. It's just a terrible time to be alive. It's kind of, what if that's the opposite? What if that's the point? That's kind of what they want you to believe it was like, but it was really a golden age because we have so many buildings that were supposedly built during these times that are gorgeous and complex and show us a level of craftsmanship and style that is just far beyond what we're told these people were actually like. People with life expectancies of only 30 years or 40 years or so shouldn't have the knowledge or ability or capabilities passed down long enough to learn enough skills to build such things. Like, none of it adds up. Unless you realise that was the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And never mind that the Byzantine Empire lasted for 1,000 years, before Constantinople fell and became Istanbul. It's a different, it's a completely different perspective of it on everything. Completely different. And I know I went off on one again there. But again, I think you guys stick around to hear me go off on one from what I'm seeing. So I'm going to keep doing it because I do enjoy doing it. And I actually do have a video that's coming out tomorrow, maybe later in the week. I'm not sure. I've already recorded and it's ready to go. I'm just trying to figure out best days to schedule these things. But it's another tips for truthers. I've yet to make the thumbnail. I'd show you it otherwise. But it's basically titled "Say It Out Loud." And it's a good tip for anybody who's in this world of thinking constantly about theories and ideas to try and make sense of the world in the conspiracy realm. It's probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody, is to say what you think and believe and what you're thinking about out loud. Even record yourself saying it and listen back to it, or write it down and read it out loud to yourself, or whatever you need to do to hear it out loud, spoken with words. Because hearing what you actually believe helps you formulate your beliefs better and your thoughts better. And when you actually hear it, sometimes you can pause and say to yourself, is that what I really believe? Is that what it sounds like? and I'm not saying you're wrong when you say that. Maybe what you believe is correct, but the way you say it and the way you formulated the thought might be weak. It might not be strong, and it might not be useful when you try and communicate it for the first time with somebody else, when trying to convince them. You need to practice that type of thing, and saying it out loud helps you sharpen up the image of what it is you believe. So when you do try and communicate your ideas with people, you've already practiced how you're going to say it. So saying it out loud is very useful, but it also is a good way to actually hear what you sound like and realize if what you're saying does actually make sense. Because we have this problem where we get into our heads, okay, when we're in this game for too long, and all we've done for a year is think about ideas and never saying them out loud or speaking with people about them, because you're scared of what they're going to think and you don't want to talk with them about it. And they've already in the past proven that they reject you and your ideas when you start saying all these crazy things. So you've learned to shut up already, you know. But the problem is we end up so isolated with our own mind and our own thoughts that we can end up believing things which are actually insane quite quickly because we've never actually bothered to speak them out and hash them out verbally with somebody. And because it's in our heads, we tend to have this bias where we easily believe things we think more so than things we've heard. Do you get what I mean? It's kind of you've made connections in your brain which don't make sense when actually verbalized because our brains are far more complex and webbed and weird than the way our words work. It's kind of, and again, I really do believe, and I've said this probably better in the other video, I hope, that you need to say these things out loud and you need to hear yourself saying them. Because many times I've defended something in the past, a belief, that I thought I had. But when I said it out loud in an argument and actually made the argument for the belief with my words, I realized I actually don't believe this. I've just kind of convinced myself I did in my own brain for all those years I was festering on these theories and ideas. But now I'm saying it, I realize how stupid this is. And that is the value behind it. And don't get me wrong, some things are going to be great, some things you should hold on to. Not everything is going to be stupid that you say out loud. Some of it's going to be brilliant. And like I said, saying it out loud does help you formulate those things better. But you will find like maybe 10% of what you actually believe is just this insane nonsense babble that you need to figure out a bit better or maybe drop. But you wouldn't realize that until you've heard it for yourself. So please just consider that, as a tip, and look forward to that video coming out soon, which specifically tries to explain it a little bit better than I did now. But it's just one of those things that is quite hard to fully explain. But I think if you are a conspiracy theorist like myself and have been doing this for long enough, you know what I mean. Because another problem conspiracy theorists tend to have is that we, I know I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here. You don't know when to shut up. So when you start telling your loved ones or your friends or your family all these things you've learned, you tend to string from one topic to another because they all connect. Every conspiracy connects to the other conspiracy. So you tend to just go on and on and on and on for like 3 hours straight, just talking about one topic after another and how that relates to this and how they're actually doing this. And then you realize that person who asked you that one simple question hours ago about what you thought about something, it has fallen asleep. Or they literally have just stopped listening to you and they're already doing something else, and then you sit there in silence at the end feeling absolute shame that you didn't stop yourself and became that guy who talked for too much and made people scared, just switch off. Like no one wants to be that guy. So you've got to, like I say, get the practice in by saying it out loud in your own time first, or something like that, I would say. So it is useful for that too. Okay, so what are people saying here? I got a few comments rolling in. Just quickly scroll up, see what people are saying here. Great insight on the Middle Ages, maybe Revelation coded in reverse. Read like Hebrew back to front, that's why Apocalypse comes after the 1,000-year reign. Yeah, but it's just the whole idea that, the people is it woe to them who say darkness is light and lightness is dark or something. I can't remember the exact quote now, but it's the idea that these people are saying that something that was a beautiful age of enlightenment and advancement and pure the light of Jesus being present on earth is the Dark Ages. And what came immediately after the Dark Ages? Well, it was the Enlightenment period, where science and logic and all that type of stuff started to take precedence over biblical concepts and ideas. And, it was the breaking free from biblical Christian dogma and the flourish of all the sciences and the arts, free from the shackles of dogmatic Christianity. And they called that period the Enlightenment, when really what it was is that was the beginning of the degradation of everything. That was the beginning of the Dark Ages. We're living in the real Dark Ages. It's the other way around, technically. just on that, someone asked me, it said to me earlier, oh well, this can't possibly be the millennial reign because during the millennial reign of Christ, the saints will live forever, or at least live for 1,000 years while ruling with Christ. But it says that people will live to be over 100 years old, and that's just not happening anymore. So we can't possibly be the millennial reign can't possibly have happened because we don't live for 100 years. Or we don't live over 100 years. It's rare. We should all be living over 100 years, right? And I was thinking like, well, no, because this is Satan's little season. And in Satan's little season, what has he done? He has done everything he can to fully control the medical industries so that they don't make you better but make you more sick. He has fully loaded every bit of food that we eat is now laced with chemicals and additives that shorten your lifespan and give you cancer and give you diseases like diabetes. He has supported a culture that makes children obese and flooded with sugar. Everything has sugar in it. Everyone's hormones are all over the place because they put artificial soy in everything, which is estrogen. Like, all our tap water is full of fluoride and poisoned. Everything is killing us. So yes, perhaps if Satan hadn't done all those things, we as a people may still be living over 100 years old quite regularly, as though it's the norm. But we don't. Our lives are significantly shorter than what they should be simply by being in this world. And never mind the pollution in the air and everything else as well that's been going on. And that other conspiracy about things in the sky that are purposely being put there, which eventually come down to Earth, which we have to inhale as well. All that sort of stuff. Like, our lives have been significantly shortened in this little season. And we're told, oh, we're living longer than we've ever lived. Life expectancy is higher than it's ever been. That's what we get told from the trusted scientists. But the truth is, if this is post-millennial reign, then no. Our lives are significantly getting shorter than what they once were. And we know people can live to be over 100 years old, because it does happen. Usually those who, you know, eat well, grow their own food, don't partake in medicines and all that sort of stuff. So there is that as well. And people send me those type of messages, and I do feel like they're doing like a bit of a "ha, got you" type of. I've got you now, Paul. Where's your millennial reign now, Paul? Hey, why aren't we living for 100 years? And it's like, well, have you just thought about it for a little bit? Like I just did that. Have you not just just sat down and thought to yourself, what would Satan do in a little season, and what would it be like to live during that time? Just think about it, and you'll start to realize, oh yeah, it would be something like this. So that's all I'm saying. Um, Donna Matrix is in the chat. Donna, did you get my response to your email about the Nephilim? Oh, well, no, about Noah and how he looked when he was born. I have responded to your email there and asked your opinion on it. But I guess if you want, I could also tell you my answer to the question here if you haven't already. Yes, Noah was certainly, according to the book of Noah, which is found in the book of Enoch, his father Lamech was in shock when he saw his son, Noah, for the first time. He thought he looked like one of the sons of the angels, of the sons of God. He looked like a Nephilim, that's what he said. And he ran to his father, Methuselah, and was like, "Dad, look at my son. Like, why does he look? He looks like he looks like a Nephilim, basically." And he was freaking out because he had white, ruddy skin with red patches on it, and golden shining hair and shining eyes that lit up the room. And he was like one of the glowing ones, right, like a Nephilim. But I don't believe he is a Nephilim. Noah was not Nephilim. And I think Lamech calmed down eventually and realized, oh, okay, he is a human. People have argued, oh, maybe it's albinism and stuff like that, but that description, albinos don't shine from the eyes, okay? This is something else, all right? And I'm likely thinking he was simply just touched by the divine because he was going to be the father of all nations after the flood. He was humanity's last salvational hope during that little time period, specifically for the coming destruction of the flood, he was going to be the man that would repopulate the earth, right? So you'd think God would put a bit more attention to him as a creation of form, and perhaps he would have a bit of a hardy divine nature to him. And from him, we have kind of devolved, obviously, a little bit. And we got a bit more corrupted since then. Um, but I wouldn't focus too much on the color of his skin if that's what you were aiming at necessarily. I don't think that was the point of saying his skin was white. I think it was a symbol of he has been touched by the heavenly. That's what happens. That's why the Nephilim suddenly had white skin, porcelain white skin too. It's not because I don't know, because white people are evil if that's what you're angling at. It's because they were part angel. And that's just kind of what happens when the angelic or the godly heavenly realms interact with a human being like that in some form or intermingle with or are touched by. It seems like the glowing whiteness aspect is just added. And again, this has nothing to do with the races of Caucasians today or black people today or anything like that. We are not that. You know, this is the reason we have our skin color is based on melanin and where the sun is. It's adaptations to environment is why we have our skin colors. It's nothing to do with anything else really. It's just based on melanin amounts, and I don't know if that's what you were angling at in your email, but that's not what it's about. Okay, because we know all nations came from Noah, including all from his sons as well, you know. So it's not, and we have all the races today still from Noah who had that white skin thing, and it's not because he was a Caucasian, it's because he had a godly nature to him, touched by God himself, designed specifically by God for a very specific and special purpose to repopulate the earth after the flood. He was perfect in all his generations for that reason, you know, and he remained perfect. He was This is just me saying this, by the way. Now, this is not so saith the Lord or scripture, but it seems like perhaps he was modeled after Adam. And Adam was perfect at the beginning before his fall too. Now, obviously, he was not Adam because mankind was corrupt and fallen, including Noah in the same sense. He was a descendant of Adam, okay? So he would not, but it's kind of like God gave him a bit of a boost, just like when Adam had to, you know, start with the population attempts, like Noah could do something similar, and mankind had a chance and longevity before all the copies got more and more corrupted with each later copy. You know, I feel like that's what was going on there. And he wasn't Nephilim himself, but from his description, in fact, and I write about this in my book, it's good that he makes that parallel. Lamech, his father, makes the parallel to Nephilim because it gives us insight into what Nephilim did look like. And they had pale white skin with a red ruddiness to them, which is what I say because they look like clowns. You know, they also had very elongated skulls, huge wide eyes that glowed, often blue or golden, and they had big wide grins. That's not what Noah had. He was still a human, but he just had that half divine glow going on in some way because, like I said, specifically set apart by God for a specific purpose. I think that's all it's really about. Um, so Donna says she doesn't believe in races. I think there are breeds of men. Well, that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? I get what you're saying, because like dogs have different breeds in a sense, and there's different types of dog, but they're all fundamentally dog. I get what you're saying, but a lot of people argue that, and a lot of eugenicists argue that that's what's going on with humanity as well. And through selective breeding, they aim to build the Ubermensch, right? The Superman. So you got to be careful with that kind of language. It leads to nothing good, is all I'm saying. There were two Enochs, by the way, good which God took, and the bad one. Yes, the firstborn son of Cain was Enoch, and the first city Cain built was named after him. Enoch was of the first generation. Our Enoch, I believe he was of the seventh generation. The good Enoch of Seth, was he the seventh, the sixth? No, Jared was the sixth. I'm losing it right now. Sorry, I'm pretty sure Noah was the 10th. And maybe Enoch was the ninth generation. So there were two Enochs, Enoch the good, Enoch the bad. It was the good Enoch that wrote first Enoch. It was the bad Enoch who created all the first mystery schools and the first sun worship cults and serpent worship cults. He was there working with his son Cain at the very beginning to turn everybody against God. Um, and so there are two Enochs, that's for sure, and it's the bad Enoch who's equated with occulting all the seven sacred sciences of God, all the knowledge, and putting it into secret mystery schools and only giving it out to those who are initiated. And corrupting the knowledge really and using it to control people rather than live harmoniously on the earth with everybody else and keep the peace. So there's knowledge itself isn't evil, but how you use it is. And Enoch certainly used the knowledge Adam had learned from God, which Adam then taught to Cain, which Cain then taught to Enoch. Enoch took that knowledge that comes straight from God as the source and from his grandfather Adam, and corrupted it and used it to control people along with Cain himself. So, but obviously the Sethites and the descendants of Seth, going all the way down to Enoch and then to Noah, they didn't use the knowledge for evil. They used it for good, I imagine, and didn't use it to control people, but live more harmoniously. I imagine that's how how Gary Wayne has laid it out, as it comes to the antediluvian age. But yeah, there are certainly two Enochs. The one that interceded for God to the giants and pleaded the giants' case to God, and then sent the message to the giants saying, "Nope, God's not hearing it. You're doomed." That was the good Enoch, and he's the one who did get a view of heaven and all the earth and how everything works. Basically, got a free tour. He was the one who ascended into heaven. That's true. So yeah, there are definitely two Enochs. That's right. If people didn't know that, there you go. And I think it's kind of like how like the devil is what's the word? He copy fits. Counterfeits everything. Copy fits. Listen to me. God, it is late, isn't it? He counterfeits everything, and it seems like a lot of the names are very similar through both lineages. Like there's two Lamechs. There's Lamech is I think like the seventh generation from Cain, but also the father of Noah on Seth's side. So what's that? The ninth generation on Seth's side or something like that. He was also called Lamech. So it seems like they're trying to confuse matters, So, and I feel like the Freemasons often play on that when they talk about their own connections to the past, and they try and say that they venerate the good Enoch when really they're venerating the bad Enoch, because people don't realize there's two, And if you read the book of Lamech of Cain and Leviathan, so it makes it clear the book of Lamech of Cain, that guy was evil. That guy was brutal and horrible and murdered a lot of people and worked with Nephilim giants and serpents and dragons to kill people and start his own cults and religions against God, and all sorts of horrible things were going on with that guy. But Lamech was the father of Noah, and he was terrified that his son might be a Nephilim. It was completely a different world, So there are two, there's the two of a lot of people with similar names throughout both lineages. Let me just check the chat, see what's going on, guys. I see someone mention Beetlejuice. Yes, he is certainly a representation of the Nephilim. Absolutely. He's even shown as a giant in that tiny little miniature city that guy has in his attic. Um, the fact that Christian doesn't mean one follows Messiah and the Father. That label is put on everyone, even those that do the Christ consciousness, etc. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure wasn't Christian used originally as like a label by the Roman emperor to describe these people out there following this guy called Jesus. I'm pretty sure it was a name given to us. It's not a name they chose for themselves. So there is that too. But I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And there probably is another name for that that's shorter that you guys could probably tell me. I suppose Christian is the best word we've got, but yeah, it even says not all those that profess Christ will be accepted by him. Didn't I do many wonders in your name? And he said, no, depart from me, I never knew you. Sort of situation, isn't it? You workers of iniquity. So just all those who profess Christ or call themselves Christians aren't necessarily that. That is true. I mean, even the devil believes in Jesus. You know? But does he follow Jesus? Does he walk in his way? That's the real question. Um, in scripture, Lucifer is a Nephilim, not a fallen angel, and Lucifer is female, a breeder. I learned that last night, says Jessica. Well, Lucifer is just the Latin name for Hallel, if I'm correct. And even then, that comes from a Canaanite word for Venus, or the morning star, or the bright and morning. I think it's morning star. So I think Lucifer's real name, or the angel that's been, or the being that's been equated as Lucifer, is Hallel. But even then, in Latin, that is just Lucifer, which translates to light bearer. But I believe even the Canaanites use the word something like Lucifer, was it? I can't remember now. I wrote it down. I saw it the other day. Um, but they were doing it to refer to a god equated with Venus, the brightest star. So yeah, it's not necessarily that Lucifer may not have been the angel that rebelled. He could have just been a angel that is equated with the star Venus. Because as I've explained in other videos, I do think stars are angels. And a lot of angels left their first estate and became wandering stars, and Venus is just one of them. Hallel is just one of them. One of the planets, as we call them today, which people started to worship because they moved. And that obviously put worship away from God. And I've explained as well that, and Gary Wayne explained it, it's a lot of this planet worship that was around during this time was an intentional move created by Enoch the Bad to corrupt astronomy. So the things that were supposed to be used as signs and for seasons and for tides and for usefulness, like a map, were then turned into things to venerate and worship like gods. Because when the angels started to rebel and moved, it opened up all sorts of kind of worms for reinterpretation by Enoch to then sell to the public who were ignorant. Oh, you need to be worshipping the gods who are the planets, the wandering stars. And that's where you get all these cultures that eventually equate godliness to stars, like Venus, for example, and being Hallel or the morning star. But really, that was angels in rebellion, purposely working to create false religions. It's quite interesting when you think about it from that perspective. But I do think Lucifer is, in the modern sense, is equated with being obviously the brightest star. And that is kind of the story of Lucifer. He shone brightly, was adorned in all the stones, and walked in Eden with God until pride was found in him and he was cast down. So you could equally apply the brightness of Lucifer to that particular angel who was the pride of God originally and most beloved by God, before iniquity was found in him, before pride was found in him, and before he proclaimed he would place himself above God, and become like God. And then obviously a rebellion was kicked off, and then he was cast down, wasn't he? So Lucifer and Satan, as far as I'm aware and concerned, in terms of translation, it can equate to the same being if you want it to. It can be. But there is debate that Lucifer was just simply a child or a Nephilim of other angels. But I'm yet to find much research on that specifically that has convinced me. Maybe I need to look deeper into it, and maybe I haven't looked deep enough. But I'm open to be changed on that one. But I think it starts to get down to a matter of semantics. The idea is that it was Lucifer before he fell, and it's Satan now. As he became the adversary, which is what Satan means. It's a title, isn't it? These are titles, not names exactly. So when he was Lucifer, he was the bright morning star, the light bringer. The light bearer. I think it means in Latin or something like that. And I think it means I think Hallel means morning star, which is Venus. Yeah, something like that. So maybe Hallel is his real name, or Belial, or something like that. And there's many names. But the title of morning star was in his glorified form. And I think Satan is his title in his corrupted, fallen form, as he became the accuser of men, or the adversary of man. So Satan is just a title, and so is Lucifer. They're not names specifically. That is true. For what I've researched, I think his name is Hillel. The actual name of Lucifer, because most angels have L at the end of their name, and he is Hillel. I think that's his actual name. But maybe I'm wrong. But that's what my research has shown me. Just throwing that out there. Again, these are complicated things, and I kind of wasn't really around then, so I can't fully corroborate a lot of this. Um, um, there are many Satans, actually. Karako has tracked down 7. Yeah, this is what I mean. You can actually equate the title of being a Satan or an accuser or the adversary to many people. You can. There can be many Satans, essentially, because it is just a title. It's not a name. It's a title you can apply to anybody who fills the role, I suppose. But the rebellious angel who was the seraphim, the seraph cherubim, who was um, God considered his closest confidant originally, who is that? The one that fell in rebellion. And then obviously said, I'm going to place myself as God above God. Who is that? Hillel is his actual name. You can call him Lucifer or you can call it Satan. Both titles apply. That's kind of it. And it's a matter of semantics where people try and get too specific, I think. Um, yeah. Hillel, yeah. So that's his name. What's sad is Lucifer also had 33% of angels also get kicked out of heaven, a master deceiver. Well, you could say he deceived a third of the angels to do that. From what I've gathered, many years of speculation and research and contemplating how this was possible, I think a third of the angels agreed with him. It wasn't that they were tricked. So you have to understand, it seems like there was an age before the age of Adam where these angels were on earth as gods. And I don't know what they ruled over exactly. I don't know what that world was like or what was going on. But they were there from the beginning with God. God created them in the beginning, and then they helped build creation, with him. They became parts of creation, it seems, as well as what I'm saying. They were intrinsic cogs in the machine of God's creation. And they worked with him, as hosts, heavenly hosts, earthly and heavenly hosts is how they're described, the hosts of heaven. What does that mean? Like, it means they're intrinsically linked with and holding up in some way the creation itself. They are a part of it. And you could add in the day 6 people theory into this, so that after that time of the angels and maybe giant reptiles or something, whatever was on the earth before humans, it seems like perhaps there were people that were made. It's been argued by Gary Wayne that, just before Adam was created, God created man and woman, plural, 2 people, male and female, together at the same time, and said to them, multiply and subdue the earth, and be caretakers of the thing. Go and spread and multiply. That's not what he did with Adam. God formed Adam from the clay of the earth and put him into a garden. And then for a long time, he was alone. And then eventually, only after naming all of the animals, and we don't know how long that took, long enough for him to grow up and learn how to speak, I suppose, so years, decades maybe. Only then did he create a woman, which was Eve. And then an indeterminate amount of time happened, then they had to get kicked out of the garden. And then the narrative of Genesis begins, where the lineages begins and the Old Testament Torah begins, and following the lineage all the way through to Jesus Christ and the Savior to correct what Adam did, and Adam and Eve did, which was, taste of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then die and condemn all of mankind to death as a result, But that's a different story from the people of day 6. If the people of day 6 story is he created them both together and told them to go out and multiply. Adam's story is he made Adam, put him in a garden, and started to train him to be a king, basically. teaching him things, speaking with him, showing him the animals, helping him name them all, taking part in the active part in creation. Now, you could still remove the people of day 6 analogy and forget that. And if you don't want to believe that, I understand it's contentious for a lot of Christians to consider that to be the case. But you could equally just remove that, and the angel's perspective of the situation could remain the same. So it could be that the angels simply looked upon the way God treated Adam, and they were jealous. They were furious that God was grooming this primate to be a king over the earth, even over them, over the angels. And I think a third of the angels could not stomach the thought of God putting this lowly creature above them. And Lucifer specifically was furious with this. And I think a third of the angels agreed and willingly agreed to do this thing with him. The Watchers in the book of Enoch, Samyaza and Azazel, are looking at each other and looking to the 200 Watchers they brought with them, and were saying like, I'm scared you guys are going to back out and not do this thing that you said we're all. Let's make a pact now that we're going to go through with this. So they were committed to corrupting God's creation. Those angels were committed to coming down to earth and creating Nephilim. They had an agenda. They weren't tricked. They wanted to do it because they were pissed off. Okay, they were in rebellion. It was war was on, It was simple as that. They did not like the idea of having to bow down to a man. So what did they do? They did everything they could to corrupt God's creation. They sent the serpent into the garden to corrupt God's precious Adam and try and stop it from happening. Try and stop him from becoming a godlike figure on earth over the angels who were there before him, And what happened is history after that. God said to the serpent, I see what you've done, but it's not going to work. You will bite her heel, but her offspring will crush your head. That's basically what he said. And I think he was hinting there. It's like, go ahead, try and create Nephilim and corrupt my creation. Try and destroy Adam's offspring and his lineage. You try all you want, serpent, but all your serpentine offspring will do, who you think should rule over Adam, is they'll bite the woman's children's heels, but they will crush your skulls. You will lose. And Christ came and did that. And what does Golgotha stand for? Is it Skull Hill or something? Or Hill of the Skull or something like that? Where he was crucified on the skull. It's all symbolically there. They lost. And through Jesus, God corrected what the serpent did in the Garden of Eden to Adam and Eve. And that isn't to, to alleviate Adam and Eve from their own responsibility and culpability in their actions. They weren't innocent. They never should have disobeyed God and rebelled to begin with, and they suffered their own consequences. But God saw what the plan was from the start, and it seems like he said, I know you're about to try and create your own beings by corrupting my creation. You're going to come in and mix yourselves with things in my image, Adam's offspring, and you're going to try and create your own creature, which will be the Nephilim, the serpents, the serpent race. I know you're about to try and do this, but there'll be enmity between her seed and your seed. You'll forever be at war, and you'll always be losing that war against them. The humans will win, is what he was saying, and we won through the Savior of Jesus. He came and finished it. He conquered death, okay? And it was death that entered the world when Adam did what he did. Do you get what I mean? So it's kind of, it's done. That's what he meant when he said it's done. It was a promise to Adam that he would sort it out, and he did through Christ. It's as simple as that. He sent his only son to save to die for our sins and save the world, basically, or save the people in the world, not the physical world itself, to save his people, to save his children. So yeah, the story's amazing, but I said a lot of things there. A lot of things there, but the angels were a third of the angels, I think, hated God's decision to put Adam above them. Okay. And the only reason you could use the day six people involved with this theory to expound on that feeling of jealousy is that it's possible these angels were ruling over as watchers these original humans, the day six people. And the day six people saw them as gods and venerated them, and the angels probably liked the way that felt. But when then God decided to choose make one of these people and start grooming him to be a king, they probably looked at that and thought, I'm not letting one of these things I've been ruling over for God knows how long rule over me. That's probably what the angels thought. They thought, we are above men. These things work for us. We are gods over them. And God wants to choose one of these animals to be a king over us. That's the kind of attitude these things had. That's how Lucifer thought. Those are the things he was thinking and saying. That's why he rebelled. That was the rebellion. That's what caused it all. Okay. And they they had a good go, didn't they? And they almost won. They almost destroyed everything. But then obviously Noah and the flood happened, and a reset happened, and their infrastructure they built in the antediluvian age was wiped away. And they were put in, and many of them, the watchers who created the Nephilim, were bound in chains in the pit, and they had their punishment, and all the angels of the rebellion who didn't mate with women were there. I think they're still around and they're still an agenda, but I think they were shook up a little bit at what they witnessed God do, and they were like, whoa, okay, we need to rethink our plan here. But then they didn't see Jesus coming, did they? And then he completely blasted it all out of the water, and then they were completely screwed. So yeah, that's what happened basically. That's kind of the story summed up there. If you didn't know it. And I'm sorry if I butchered anything or if there's some points specific that people just needed me to say that I didn't, but I'm not perfect, and there's only so much I can do. But there's an interesting story. If you haven't already, try reading Gary Wayne's work on this, the Genesis 6 conspiracy. He really does lay it out in a way that I just can't. And you don't have to agree with everything the guy says, but he does have interesting research, and he has laid together an interesting chronology of the antediluvian age, and the narrative he's showing does match up to the way the controllers worship and venerate today, based on that history. And also, there's plenty of evidence outside of the biblical culture and narrative in other cultures all over the earth that seem to back up this story, and have their own tales and versions of what went down during that time, which corroborate and supports the biblical narrative I've just said to you there. Just with different names. They just called them different things, but it's the same stories. So there is a similar vein which you can find. But it's one hell of a story when you think about it, and it makes you wonder why they don't make more films based on that alone, because that is the greatest story of rebellion, tragedy, redemption, and all sorts of things going on. I suppose in a way the Gnostic media has tried to retell that story, but has framed it as a battle between equals of good and evil. But the truth is, Satan and his army never stood a chance. They are not equals to the angels of heaven and God. Like they only try and frame themselves that way, as though it was always two opposing forces continuously at loggerheads with each other, one never being able to overcome the other in perpetual balance of good and evil. It's like, what a load of bollocks. And they are not God's equals. Okay, they nibbled at the heels of humanity, and humanity and God crushed their skulls. They had no chance. These things are just slimy snakes and serpents rolling around on their bellies compared to God. They are nothing. And that's kind of the truth of the matter. But they'll do anything they can in media to try and tell that story in the past as though they even had a chance to begin with. And they still don't have a chance even in the little season. Satan's time is short, it'll all be stripped away from him, and he's going into the lake of fire. It's as simple as that. But yeah, they will always try and spin themselves as the heroes or the great ones or God's equals or the saviors of mankind from a cruel, evil, tyrannical God that won't let them be gods like them or something. I don't know. So much nonsense comes from these creatures, these monsters in rebellion against God, and they're just like children, realistically. You know, like pathetic children lashing out, and yeah, Jesus won. You know, and praise God for that, man, and thank you, God, for your mercy. Honestly, like sometimes I'm not even sure we deserved it, but He gave it to us anyway, and that's just amazing. Anyway, let's go back to the chat. Let's see what's going on here. Saddles on horses. The blood looks fake. Also, yeah. Well, like I said, it said that these were the horses of the like kind of like the Queen's Guard in a way, but more for like ceremonial purposes. You know, whenever you see like processions going on, like Jubilee processions or wedding processions of the royals, you see people riding horses wearing these like golden hats with like red feathers coming out the top. That's what they were training for. It says they were doing a training exercise to get the horses used to being in the public so they could deal with those big events when they happen and not freak out. And obviously, these horses were clearly very new to this training, and they freaked out. Is the official narrative, and they couldn't deal with it and kicked all the riders off, and they just ran off into the wind. And how this horse got damaged and full of blood, we don't know exactly. But there's video of 3 horses just plowing into a bus head on. Now, I don't care if horses are spooked. I don't imagine that they suddenly become idiots who run head on into buses all of a sudden. You know, these things live in the wild normally, roaming in all over the place, and I'm sure they don't normally run into things. So it's very suspect that they did that. Maybe they were being controlled through some kind of technology we don't understand. I have no idea, but that blood certainly looks very red, doesn't it? It doesn't look like the dark crimson which blood usually is. I mean, I regularly get blood drawn due to my hemochromatosis, and when I see the blood in the bag, it's way darker than that. It's so dark, like it looks almost black when it's condensed. You know, blood is quite dark, really. So that it does look like it's just kind of been painted on, doesn't it? Like they've just splashed a bit of paint on his chest and rubbed it on his back legs there a little bit for dramatic effect or something. I don't know, but we have no idea. Maybe it was demons within the animals. That's a good point. You're crazy. That's a good point. Maybe they were being spiritually controlled in some way to make this event happen, because this is a thing as well. The Nephilim, which are demons, are the spiritual foot soldiers in this war, and they're working behind the scenes to make things happen in the physical to help with the agenda. Okay? Just like the Freemasons and secret societies are the physical foot soldiers and grunts in this war. And they work with the other grunts in the spiritual realm, which are the Nephilim, to do things that forward the agenda. So when you see horses looking like they're being controlled to do crazy stuff that's mimicking tribulation symbolism, they're probably it's the spirit realm and demons and the physical realm of the royals and the all the secret societies just working together in tandem to make something weird happen, which they can then point the cameras to and spin a narrative from. That does seem to happen. So I can believe there's a spiritual element to these events sometimes. I really can. Um, Poor horses. I know, right? The horses are the true victims in all of this. What time are we on? I'm on 1 hour 38. I really can fill time, can't I? What have I even talked about for an hour and a half? I honestly, I forget. Don't be surprised, by the way, if you see a clip of the opening 20 minutes of this show where I'm explaining all my thoughts on these events. And I've said quite a few things today. I might make clips from and just release. A bit of news for you guys. No, I'm going through a lot of stuff right now in my personal life. Where I'm busy. It's not like I'm not saying like emotional stuff. I mean like active. I am going to be out of commission. I have stuff to do, to make life better for me and my family in many ways. I've got serious stuff to do, where I'm going to be kind of out of the game for a little bit. So to make my life easier with content creation, I've backed up like I've got like 10 videos already pre-recorded and clips and stuff which I'm going to release, which are from the past, just so there's content coming out for you guys. Things you probably would have missed that were buried in live shows and things like that, little clips. I've got them to be scheduled and released while I'm busy. I've got things like painting to do and just real manual labor stuff, which is going to take a lot of time. I've got a lot of things that I need to do. So I'm going to be out of the game for a bit. So I am going to spread content out and have clips and all these things. So don't be surprised if you do see clips just appearing from these shows that you've already heard. I apologize in advance, but you'll be surprised. A lot of my views don't come from people who have already watched these videos. YouTube sends them out to new people into the recommended feeds as well, So it does bring new people to the channel. So I do it for that reason too. Amy Joe for True says, horses all my life here. The hot breeds they use can actually be dumb enough in a full spook to do that. I had a hot dummy that would spook in front of a semi if I let him. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, prove me wrong. Yeah, fair enough. Maybe horses, when they're in a bit of a frenzy, maybe do things like that. I suppose they don't really understand what a bus is exactly, do they? So maybe I'm giving horses too much credit in those. This show is so fantastical, says Cassandra. Is that a good thing? Is it? Are you being like, Paul, you're so over the top and dramatic, this is too fantastical? Or are you trying to say, Paul, this show is fantastic? Can you clarify what you mean there, Cassandra? Is it good or bad? Just let me know. I never would have known it was there if it wasn't for the static electricity in the air, which made me look up. I don't know what that's about. I enjoy your work. Thank you, says Dirk Zing. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that, Dirk. That's nice of you to say. We're going to miss you, says Cheryl. Well, I'll still be around. If I do find a minute or two, I might record a video and upload it every now and then. But I do have. I'm going to be spending more time with my family. I'm going to be taking a holiday as well, so there's stuff like that. So I am going to be, uploading old content, I suppose, but it'll be clips you've probably not heard because they're just buried in live shows that most people haven't listened to and things like that. I've pre-recorded some random new videos that are just me sharing ideas. I'm hoping they don't become out of date by the time they get posted in like 2 weeks' time, but they'll be there anyway. So there are things, Cassandra Register, I love your show, lol. Okay, good. So it was a good thing. Excellent. Excellent. Thanks. I'm glad you like this, guys. Raffle, there totally could have been other elements, not disputing that at all. Daniel Grundfest, based. Okay. I don't know what we're talking about there. Praying for you, Paul, says Amber. You will be missed. Yeah, okay. No, I'm not going anywhere, guys. I'm taking a holiday and doing some housework. It's all right. It's stuff that needs to be done. I can't let my house fall apart. It's that type of thing. Oh, and obviously I'm always editing the book, and that's going to be published. With the rate I'm going, I feel like I'm going to hit that deadline at the start of June. I really do think that the 1st of June is going to be my publish date for the Nephilim Look Like Clowns book. It'll be on Amazon. Front cover done, copyrights in place, trademarks all sorted and legally sussed, fully edited, everything referenced and backed up, bibliography included, all accredited sources backed up and sorted out in the back, all the acknowledgements in the front, the preface written and the conclusions and all of it done, boxed off in a nice little paperback book of about 350 pages or so, maybe more, I don't know. A decent sized volume 1 of the Nephilim Look Like Clowns, the history of the Nephilim and the history of secret societies and where we get the costume of a clown from, all neatly put up into one book. And then the second book, once finished, will be all the cultures around today who still venerate the Nephilim and dress like clowns to channel them, and then all the modern media which still uses it today for the same practices in a hidden occult manner. 2 exciting books. Volume 1 will be published in June, early June. I am on track. fingers crossed that the best laid plan of Mice and Paul managed to actually not go awry for once. We'll find out, okay? Because things happen. Things do happen. But so far, so good. This proofreading process is flying. It's going really well. I've got software to help me do it and everything, and it's and it's quite intuitive. Its suggestions are sometimes a little bit off, but most of the time it's really good at correcting simple mistakes I made here and there in just grammar and things like that. Because it's AI, sometimes it does seem to want to rewrite paragraphs in a weird way, but I tend to just not do any of that. I just let it sort out my grammar more than anything. So obviously, I think when people read books, when something's spelt wrong or the grammar doesn't quite read right, that puts people off and it makes it seem unprofessional. So I'm really weary about that. So I'm really focusing in to make sure that's not happened. But I want the book to sound like me as well, so I'm not letting any suggestions it gives me change the way I write. It feels like it won't. That's the problem with like these proofreading softwares. It's like they want to make you sound like a robot. They want to take all the personality out of your writing style, so you have no style. And I've definitely made sure that I'm not agreeing with any of those suggestions as well. So don't worry about that. It sounds like me speaking to you. The book sounds like me. Okay, that's what I've written like. I've written it like I'm having a conversation with you about the truth of what happened here and what I think is going down. And I've always wanted the book to have that sound. So yeah, but it's going well. I'm already proofreading chapter 5 on going on to chapter 6, and I haven't really had to add anything or change anything, and it all seems to be quite good. Because you know what it's like when you reread something you've not read in ages. It's kind of like, oh, do I really think that anymore? Is that really valid? Am I wrong about that? Have I changed my position on this? And so far so good. Nothing like that's happened. Just a few little things here and there, but nothing like, oh, now I'm gonna have to just rewrite this entire chapter. That hasn't happened yet. Except for the intro. I've rewritten the intro a few times just because it's hard to know what you need to say in those type of things, and it's definitely been a learning curve. I'm not going to lie. Alright, so let's check the chat, guys. Any last questions you want to throw in for the last 10 minutes? And I'm going to get going in about 10 to 15 minutes, guys. But please let me know if there's anything you're interested in that you want to speak about. ETA on the book, the Anthony Salerno, like I said, June. I think the first volume is going to be released in June. If you haven't already and you donated £100 for your signed copy of the book, please email me your address you want the book sending to, and your choice of either do you want volume 1, which will be published in a couple of months, sent to you, signed, or do you want to wait for a year and have volumes 1 and 2 combined into one book, and I'll sign that and send it to you instead. You have a choice, but you can only choose one because of shipping costs. It's very expensive to ship to Australia, for example, and Korea and Germany and America from Britain. It's going to be a very expensive shipping process. Okay, so you can choose one book, and I'll sign it for you and send it to you. So if you can wait, then wait till volume 2 is finished and the book is made into one book. You can have, I'll be selling them as separate books, but there'll be a combined one you can buy too. Like an anthology, I'll call it, or something. Maybe that one will be hardback. I don't know. I've got decisions to make, but it's up to you which one you want. But please let me know if you haven't already what your choice is and what your address is by emailing me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com and leave your name, your full name that you donated with, because some people obviously didn't use the same name, and I have to try and find out who you are and send you another email. So, but to be honest, looking at the list of 80 people who have made those pre-orders, I think it's only like maybe 15 people left who need to tell me that stuff. So most of you have done this, which is great. If by the time the first book is published, you haven't told me, I'm just going to assume you want to wait for the second book. Okay, but I will need to know before June if you want a copy of this first book signing and sending to you. Only because once I have numbers confirmed, I can then bulk order from Amazon all the books I need for that first round of shipping. Okay, for the people who want volume 1. I need to know the numbers so I can make that order. Okay, so save on obviously delivery costs as well. And then I'll sign them all, package them all, and get them all out to everyone from all over the world who ordered that copy. So that's it, guys. So please let me know if you haven't already. But yeah, guys, any questions? Let's see what's going on. Could you do a show on werewolves and Bigfoot, says Theodora B. I could. I'm thinking a Bigfoot episode is on the table. A cryptids episode is on the table. It's something I've not touched on in years. It's something I used to talk about. I'm talking when I first started in like 2015, 14. But I really went down, and I do touch on these things today, but I really have my perspective grounded in the corrupting of flesh in the time just before the flood of humanity to create most cryptids, and Bigfoot is possibly a descendant of the Elio or the Nephil from the original Nephilim. They're my conclusions, quickly summarized. But yeah, I do think I should get people on to talk about Bigfoot more and things like that, because it is fascinating. And by the way, in my last show, people suggested I listen to the Sierra Sounds about the guy who recorded the Bigfoot in the forest, was it, or something? And after having an encounter with his friend where he heard these things, he went back obsessed with capturing it again, and it turns out he did manage to capture them speaking to each other. And I can't remember who told me this exactly now, but they are right. It does literally sound like like samurais speaking gibberish to each other. That's literally what it sounds like. Samurais, ancient samurais with deep bellowing voices, talking absolute nonsense to one another, and then cackling with odd noises and laughter in between. It's really strange. But thanks for letting me know about that one, guys, and maybe I'll have to do an episode on that and talk about it. But yeah, we'll do a Bigfoot episode. It's something I will like to talk about. Maybe I should get somebody on who's actually like a preeminent expert in Bigfoot to share with me all their thoughts and ideas. But every time I get a guest on, there's always somebody out there who's upset that I got that particular person on. It's like, why are you associating with them? What are you, some kind of shill? It's kind of like, no, they just seem like somebody who knew more than me on Bigfoot, so I let them come on to share their ideas. And that's what's probably going to happen. But if anyone has any suggestions for who they may want me to reach out to get on the show to talk about Bigfoot, let me know. Send me an email. Why not? And or leave a comment in this video, and I'll get in touch with them. I'll have a good go at it. People tend to be quite responsive when you actually reach out to them. And I'll get them to come on. But I think there's a preeminent expert who sadly passed away not that long ago, right? I can't remember his name, but I know people have recommended him to in the past. So, but if there's anyone still knocking about who's an expert, let me know. That would be awesome with your research skills. Cryptid episodes. Would you be including the human that changed with rituals, marrying, channeling spirits, or just the hybrids? Anything and anything, Amy Jo. I'm game to talk about whatever people bring my way, and I'm still learning, so that's fine, yeah. More Cantonese, not samurai, says Birdwatcher. 926. Oh, well, now you're just being pedantic. You're just nitpicking now. They sounded the way they described it to me is that it sounds like old samurais from old 60s cheesy films about samurais. Or old kung fu movies is what they said they sounded like. I think that was their reference point. In the comments, people say that they might mimic the sounds of ancient civilizations. Yeah, I think it seems like more of an archaic language to me when I heard them speak. It was they were definitely speaking a real language, and it's not a language we understand, but it's definitely like an ancient archaic language from the sounds of it. And just playing devil's advocate, maybe it was all just made up. Maybe that didn't really happen, but it seems legit. It seems legit to me. The blood is fresh, not fake. Okay, fair enough, Jessica. Maybe it is. I don't know. But if it is real, that's too bad on the horse. It clearly was severely injured and then used by the media for their own purposes, which is a shame. You guys in the Telegram under the same name? I am, but not really active, says Ralph122. Yeah, well, if you, the link for the Telegram's in the description. Come and join, and you can have a talk with us all. Talk with us all there. Drunk wedding photographer, fashion relates to the party as always. Well, thanks for joining us. Better late than never, but this show is about to end. I have 5 minutes left. I've got the obligatory Joe Rogan is a shill comment in there. Okay, fair enough. How about transhumanism? Says Theodora B. I could talk about transhumanism to the end of the earth, just like this topic. Absolutely. Yeah, sure. I'll do one of my next shows on transhumanism as well. Sure thing. I do enjoy a good transhumanism show. It's one of those agendas I used to always talk about. And I suppose it's taken a bit of a sideline now. I've been focusing on the clown stuff, but it's still an agenda well in play. And it's something we should not take our minds off. Absolutely. So yeah, we'll talk about that too. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to end the show. This is it. As you can hear, my voice is going. It's been 2 hours. I'm gonna get back in and relax with my wife and just enjoy it. Try and get an early night because our child keeps waking up really early, and I'm losing so much sleep, and it's slowly destroying my soul. So I'm gonna go and relax. But thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. Like I said, if you haven't already, please consider becoming a patron. $5 a month will get you access to a lot of extra stuff, guys. I try and make it worth your while, and it really helps me when you do this. YouTube is fickle, and I do this to support my family. At the end of the day, this is my job. Inadvertently, and I am a self-employed individual, and this is one of the ways I feed my family. And if one day YouTube does decide just to take it all away, it would be good to know that I have some income which they cannot get to through Patreon, which will keep me going until I can get back on my feet. Okay, so please consider joining Patreon. It would really mean a lot to me if you could do that. But thanks, guys, for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll be back with another live show on Sunday for the Truth or Therapy sessions. I think might have a guest lined up for that. I'm going to have to look into it. But I think I do have a guest lined up for that already. I'm not sure. If not, it'll just be me ranting into the area as always. But I will release a few videos in the meantime as well. But the next live show will be then, guys. So look forward to that. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless.